Hello and welcome to Ghostability with myself, Paranormal Mitch.
And Paranormal Teach.
We are joined by our guest today. It is Rhea from Unearthing Violet. Hello.
Hi.
I
so
am
excited.
so excited for today's episode. We've talked about this a lot, but I think I'm very happy to really dive into our topic today.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about investigation, safety, basics, ethics. Ray is going to be giving us the full rundown from start to finish. This topic is so important for investigators, collectors, no matter where you are on your paranormal journey. Even if you have experience, I think these things are always really good to revisit and think about critically. So we're going to be hitting it.
And before we get started, Ray, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I actually grew up inside of the paranormal community. Up until I was a preteen, my dad ran a haunted theater here locally. So learning the ethics and respect for spirits is something that has been ingrained into my brain since I was a toddler.
Awesome.
And about a year and a half ago, my wife and I started doing paranormal location investigations. And we are about 8 months into having spirited vessels at our home. So we just really love all aspects of the paranormal community and experiences.
Love it.
I love it. That's fabulous.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So first thing we want to ask is, we're going over a lot of things today, basic safety, ethics, things like that. Why do you think this is an important topic for investigators and collectors to know about?
So I think safety, ethics, all of that comes into play with having a really well-rounded investigation and having good patterns and developing rapport throughout the community. No matter where you are, whether it's at home, whether it's at a location, the style that you choose to do for your investigations, it doesn't change. You may build upon it, you may grow, but it's important to develop patterns that protect us while exploring and learning the paranormal field. It becomes second nature so that you're not opening yourself up to things that you shouldn't. And then creating those ethics and that mission statement for yourself of creating good, solid foundations for your investigation also allows other viewers to take on a respect for your work. It helps with the validity of when people are watching your evidence, that they can trust what you're saying is correct.
Yep, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think too, sometimes collectors, like people who don't do locations, sometimes get a little bit more loosey-goosey with the boundaries and the ethics and the safety, because you obviously, in most cases, you trust the spirits who are in your home. And so it's like, oh, it's fine. I've never had a problem in my house. I've never had a problem with this spirit. But I think it's really important to always be on your toes, because when you're working with the paranormal, you turn that spirit box on in your own home, and a random could show up, and you need to know how to navigate that. Or a spirit in your house gets super upset and you have something happen that's never happened before. You never want to be complacent when it comes to ethics or safety or any of those things, no matter how much you trust the spirits you're working with, because anything can happen anytime, and you want to have a game plan to keep yourself safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, we're enjoying our time. That's why we do this. And obviously, if you go to a lot of different places, it's crucial to be able to have this information.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
All right.
Okay, so next thing we're going to jump into is not necessarily how to perform the investigation, but debunking. So, Ray, why do you think debunking is so crucial in regards to an investigation?
Debunking, one, I think there's no harm if you're recording, even if it's for TikTok, even if it's for a YouTube video. I don't think there's any harm in doing your debunking on video while you're recording. It shows others that you are not taking things black and white, that you are actually looking into making sure that you are reporting accurate information. And as much as we ask questions, we should be trying to debunk the answers. Taking notes to compare what was said a week ago versus what was said today if you're talking to vessels. If you're at a location, seeking out noises to see if there's an outside source and when possible, trying to recreate situations to see if you have the same results time after time. One example I love of this is we were at a location and we were leaving to run an errand. Gotta have the food. And we left a recorder going because we were like, we might catch EVPs while nobody's in the building. We come back, we're going through stuff, and the group we were with was like, that sounds like footsteps. And we listened more and we were like, we were at a school. And I was like, it actually sounds more like a ruler hitting your hand, which would fit in with the classroom theme. Instead of just going with that, we went back to that room. We spent 20 minutes trying to debunk, and we found that there was a crack in the window at the very back of that classroom. And right outside of that window, there was a sheet of metal that raindrops were falling onto, and it was making that same rhythmic sound. So something that very easily could have just been a take it off of what you hear, we went back and were able to debunk it.
It's wild how often that happens. And I think, too, the other thing is sometimes when you're looking at evidence, like the evidence is not always perfectly clean, right? Like you may only have caught half of the event on camera, or the camera was pointing the wrong way. Like we were at the Congress Hotel and there was like doorknob shaking, and Morgan was recording, but she was recording facing the other way. So you could hear it on the video, but you couldn't see it. And so I don't think there's anything wrong either with being like, no, we couldn't debunk it if you couldn't debunk it, but also not saying like, hey, this is the perfect evidence. I know for sure this is paranormal. It's also okay to say like, hey, I caught this. I'm not sure what this is, but here it is. Like I can't say for sure whether this is paranormal or not. And, you think about it critically. I think it's always important too to have like multiple eyes on something. If I catch something that I'm really not sure about, because you're not always going to know. And sometimes it's really just making like the best possible judgment call that you can, showing other people, hey, what do you think about this? I caught this. Do you think this is, dust that caused this? Or is this like an apparition I caught? Like, what do you think of this? And showing it to multiple people and having multiple sets of eyes and perspectives, especially from people who weren't there, can be so beneficial. Like, I can't tell you how often I send out videos and I'm like, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I just like probe people, I'm like, what do you think? What do you think? Like, let's do a survey. What does everybody think of this? Because sometimes your video is not always perfect. Like there's rarely a time your video is perfect. Like there's always like somebody standing in the wrong spot that blocked like what you needed to catch, or somebody's shadow is cast like a specific way and it's covering up something else. Like there's so many things that can just mess up those videos and evidence where sometimes it's really, really unclear, and it's okay to say, I don't know. We don't always have to have this is for certain this, like I caught the craziest apparition on camera. Like it doesn't always have to be that. Sometimes it's like, I caught this and I can't explain it. I can't debunk it, but I'm also not positive because I'm not living in this environment to be able to go down that hallway again and test it either. So.
Yeah, I agree. Right. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Cool. Let's move on to the next one. So, getting into a little bit more of like the safety, I think setting protection is like kind of a basic square one. And in regards to that, how do you recommend investigators prepare and protect themselves before actually starting an investigation?
So protection is something I am huge on, especially you don't know who you're going to encounter. Totally. You can set boundaries all day long. There's always a chance that someone is going to push that boundary. So it's important to know as much in regards to safety as you can. I always like to ground myself prior to any investigation. Just go and touch a tree, touch the ground, connect, and try and clear your head before you go in. That's always a really good place to start. Make sure that you're not investigating when you're overly tired, if you're having a bad day. If you cried for an hour that morning, it's probably not the best time to go on and do an investigation. So really making sure that you're in a good headspace to be able to fully receive everything. then once you start going into actually doing the investigation, one, I always love going back to your guys' Friday Night Live videos because Mitch has like this perfect, like, word for word intro into the extra sections.
Yeah, that's my script.
I love it. But, I only wish to speak with positive spirits at this location, or I only want to speak with positive spirits who reside in my home. If working with spirited vessels, I only want to speak with and putting out a name. Just great examples of things you can do verbally. If you want to go beyond that, especially with like locations where you don't know who you're going to get, there's protection stones. I actually have necklaces that have protection stones in them. There's oils, sprays. There's so many different options. And it really comes back to intent. One of my favorites it's called a protection braid. So, and I mean just a small section of hair. And as I braid it, I'll say I am protected. I surround myself with light. I am my true self. And I just say that over and over as I braid it and create that protection on my person.
Yeah, and I think it's important too. You bring up a really good point that I think it's really individualized, right? What works for one person may be totally different for another person. Like I obviously can't braid my hair, right? No. So like I can't do that. But for some people, it's a good job. Yeah, that's fine. But I think like,
a clip in.
Yeah, give me a clip. Just stick it in my head. That'll be great.
Super glue that thing on.
Perfect. But yeah, like don't be afraid of a little bit of trial and error. Like this is something where I feel like, listen to what other people have talked about in things that they do, and then do what really feels best for you. Whether it's a piece of jewelry, and it doesn't have to be even like a special one that you get. If you have one that's meaningful to you, and you kind of set that intention as you put it on, or as you think about it, or as you wash it, or whatever, that can be just as beneficial. So I think it's really important to kind of discover what works for someone, and how they can sort of individualize it to their ability.
Yeah. You also mentioned like not going when you're sad and all of those things. And I think that is so, so, so important. The other thing I want to add to that is if you're not feeling well, if you're sick, I have chronic illness. I'm in the best spot I've ever been in. So it's much less common now for me to be going places sick. But I will say the worst experience we ever had, like it was bad. Was I was sick. I wasn't feeling well. I put the headphones on in a place where I was vulnerable. There was somebody lurking in the shadows who had bad intentions, and I got hit bad. And it wasn't like got hit when I'm at the location, get in my car and feel fine. It was, nightmares for a long time after. It was, every time I closed my eyes, seeing this thing in my head. It was, this thing trying to influence my actions and telling me to do bad things, to people that I cared about. It was a really bad experience. And I attribute that like almost 100% to the fact that I was sick. In fact, I was so sick that I ended up with a fever in the car on the way home. And so I shouldn't have gone. I woke up that morning, I had a headache, I was stuffy, I wasn't feeling good, I wasn't clear-headed, and I put myself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I learned from that. And now if I'm sick, like I don't even do spirit box in my own home, because just even spirits who have good intentions, like one time, I wasn't feeling well at all. And this was on a live actually. And people were like, oh my God, she's going to die on this live stream, because I was working with Saya. Saya is a non-human spirit. She's extremely positive. Anybody who knows Saya is like, oh my God, she's the sweetest spirit on the planet. Like she is harmless. Like she is the most love and light non-human spirit you could ever encounter. But I wasn't feeling well, and she's a non-human spirit. She has a lot of energy. I hadn't been coughing for like 2 days. I was okay. I wasn't having any problems. I felt like I'm not 100%, but I'm good enough. I'm good enough to spirit box. I wasn't good enough. I went into a full-blown like coughing attack that I couldn't get out of, like in the middle of the session, like, and then I ended up sick again and took 5 more days to bounce back. So, just the sheer amount of energy can take you down bad. So, yeah.
Well, not even affecting you in that aspect, but your body needs rest and recovery. to heal itself when you're sick. And if you're going under Estes, that's draining that energy on top of it. So your overall recovery time just on its own is being affected.
Yep. Yeah. It's super important to think about. And especially when you have haunted dolls, sometimes it's like, oh, well, I always talk to them on Sunday and they really look forward to it and they love it. And that's what I get into is like, oh my gosh, like this is part of our routine and they always look forward to this. And like, they're not going to get it on Sunday. And then like, I end up absolutely wiping myself out in the process. So, food for thought. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into a little bit more on the investigation itself. So, recording or documentation, obviously huge. That's one of the main things that we all kind of strive for. What do you think people should be recording, and why is good documentation so critical during an investigation?
So I think record everything. If you have the ability to record it, record it. I see a lot of people that are like, well, it's just me at my house. I don't plan on posting it. I don't plan on showing it to anyone. That's fine. Record it for yourself. And, even at home, things can get lost quickly in translation and interpretation. So I always say, try to get a clear view of as much of the room as you can. If you're working with a vessel, you can just get a clear view of that particular vessel you're working with. There's times where I can't get to the vessels that I'm working with. And I've literally taken recordings of my ceiling. I have like 20 recordings of my ceiling.
You always send me recordings of your ceiling. It cracks me up. I'm like, there's her ceiling again. I'm going to watch it for 5 minutes.
She knows my ceiling better than anyone. But it allows me to go back through and see what those spirits said again. It allows me to go through and make sure that my notes are correct. And think of when we were kids, we all played the telephone game at school where you're sitting and you're whispering to the next person, and how quickly things can get distorted, how quickly things can be forgotten. You have someone that is trying to interpret a spirit box or listening to Estes. And at the time you might be like, oh, I've got this. This was a whole conversation. And you go back and listen to it and realize, no, like this was like a completely random topic that they wanted to talk about. And then over here's the answer to your question. So it's good to have a way to go back and just review.
I've had times on my wave where I swore in person I heard a word. And then I go back on the recording and it wasn't there. And I'm like, okay, that was, and then I apologize to the spirit. And I'm like, I totally heard you wrong. I really thought that I heard this word, but it was actually totally different word. And I ran with that. And so it's so important to check yourself and to be humble enough to check yourself too, and not just assume you've always got it right, because none of us always have it right. With none of these methods is there 100% accuracy. We're dealing, there's no such thing as a phone to the other side where you're going to have 100% perfection every single time in perfect service. You have to be able to say like, hey, I got that one so wrong. Like I blew that, it's okay. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in making a mistake, and learning for the future from that mistake. The other thing when you're recording too, that we learned with locations is now we set up cameras on every angle of the room, because we have missed so many cool things that have happened. Backpacks falling down, things getting knocked over, all types of stuff, because we had a camera pointing, we're doing an Estes method session, the camera's pointing at the session and not the rest of the room, and we missed stuff. So now we have cameras set up in every corner. Like we've got our phone and our camera running. Morgan and Eric have cameras running, and we got every corner. And then afterwards, we share and compare footage of like, hey, during this Estes session that you shot on your phone, look what I caught on this other camera that we didn't even notice happened because it was our backs were turned to it. So sometimes things happen at locations and when you're working with haunted dolls that you didn't even know happened, and you cannot know happened unless you caught it on your camera. So
yeah, and sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, even at home, when I was there for Mod Madness, we were doing an Estes session, and off of recording a pillow, this thing slow just like starts rolling and falls off of the suitcase.
Yep. and nobody caught it. And we were all so mad. There's 10 people in the room, 10 cameras, nobody caught it.
Well, and everyone has their one thing that they're pissed that they missed. And ours is the drums.
In the backpack.
The drums, we were one of our first big investigations at the Bell Witch Cave, and you could hear these drums loud and clear.
It sounded like a drum circle.
It sounded like a drum circle, like in the middle of the night.
In the woods.
And we're like, I can't believe we missed. This is the craziest thing ever.
We had 5 cameras and not a single one was on.
I'm never going to forget that.
You always roll. You never are like, nothing's going on right now. I'm just going to stop recording because I want to like rest my hands. No rest.
No rest.
Well, and that's, we learned the hard way. If you're at a location, record between rooms that you're going to, because the night that we were charged and chased, we were getting ready to go set up in a room and our cameras weren't rolling. So we learned that the hard way.
Yep.
Everyone has their thing they remember.
Yep. We've got some cool stuff moving between rooms too. Like Morgan had caught at that museum we went to, Morgan had caught like a full-blown figure in the mirror. And it was literally just us walking through a doorway. And the mirror was next to the doorway. And we caught a full-blown person in this mirror.
Or like the whistle in Missouri.
Yeah.
We were just randomly walking upstairs. And then there was a whistle. And I thought it was Taylor, 110%.
Oh, yeah. He argued with me. He's like, why are you whistling? You never whistle. I'm like, I'm not whistling. I didn't even hear it.
And that was clear, too. I would have been so pissed if I missed that. Okay, so
ranting.
So, one thing we talk about obviously a ton is respect for spirits. And I think that's another huge part of this. What does showing respect to spirits actually look like during an investigation?
So I think respect for spirits really ties back to that ethics. In all fronts, you need to understand that you are talking with people. This was someone's grandma. This was someone's child. This was someone's best friend. And you need to go about that with respect. Whether it's at your home or someone else's home, if you're doing home investigations, don't intentionally invite additional spirits into the home, especially not without prior conversation and knowledge of what you're doing. Keep in mind that communication can bring out energy and spirits that are already there. So, if someone says, can you come check out my house? I think there's something here. You have to be aware that you might stir something up and there might be a little bit more energy, and you need to make them aware of that prior to doing so. And you need to make sure, if it's at home, that the people are willing to accept that a spirit may be there. The last thing you want to do is create a hostile environment for either a person or a spirit during a home investigation. With vessels, I think one huge thing is keep the age in mind. It's super easy to see, these cute dolls and be like, oh my God, you're so cute. And you're speaking to like a 60-year-old man. And he's like, no, back up.
Wild.
Yeah. People do that to CL all the time. They're like, he's such a cutie. I'm like, don't
I'm like,
don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah. So I always say, if you have a vessel at your home, that's your roommate. You're not going to baby talk your grown roommate. If you know that roommate has issues with Christmas, you're not going to go up and be like, do you want to watch the Grinch make Christmas cookies, listen to Christmas music? Follow the vibes, know what they like and dislike, and be respectful of that. And also don't provoke traumatic thoughts. I always say you're not going to go up to someone at Walmart in line, meet them and say, hey, what's the most traumatic time of your life? Can we go over that in great detail? So don't do it to your spirit friends. That's something huge for me as far as spirits in the home. And then similar with locations, don't pry into trauma. You're actually with locations entering their home. So that's not your place. Don't take things, don't leave things, don't destroy things. With the exception of if you're leaving an offering and it's okay with that location to do so. But just be respectful. And I think a huge thing goes back to respect in that aspect. Another thing with locations that we found out kind of the hard way is know the time frame. Yes. If you're going in blind, at least know what time frame of spirits that you're working with. My wife, she has a very short haircut, looks very masculine, and one of our favorite locations to go to, they're like, that boy over there. I'm not arguing it. These are spirits that are from a time frame where women didn't have short haircuts. I'm not arguing it. So I'm like, yeah, that boy over there, what's he doing? Like, what's up?
Yeah.
So,
no reason to fight.
There's no reason to argue. With locations, a lot of times you're not going to be there long enough to like educate that times have changed on haircuts. So we just let it go.
Yeah. The other thing too I want to add is sometimes like this savior complex kicks in that I see where people go to locations and they want to cross every spirit over that's there, and oh, this spirit is, mean or nasty, like we got to kick them out of here, like all of these things. And I think it's very important to remember again what you said with that is their home. If they ask for help crossing over, if they want to leave, absolutely, support them in that. But if, they're just chilling out and, they're unhappy that you're there, that doesn't mean that they want to leave. That means they want you to leave, and that's their space and they're entitled to that. And so, I know, a lot of people that investigate, they're totally doing it for the right reasons. It's because they care. It's because they want to help the spirits, but not every spirit wants your help. And I think it's important to remember that and to let those spirits take the lead on if they want your help or not. Because also, if I'm going to ask somebody for help, right? I'm not going to go up to some random person at the Target and be like, hey, I really need help with my emotional situation. Like, this is what I'm going through. I'm going to call my friend. I'm going to talk to somebody I know. I'm going to talk to somebody I care about. You're walking in as a stranger and, they may not want your help. And so don't force it. Don't force it if they don't want it. They're not ready for it. They're not asking for it. I know it comes from a place of care, but it can quickly toe the line of disrespect if you're not careful. Yeah.
And I think with that, also, while you're communicating with them, like asking open-ended questions. Like one of my favorite things is what was your favorite hobby? What do you like to do? Tell me about yourself. You learn so much more with that versus, hey, what's your favorite color? Like, hey, did you live here? Like, you can learn so much more about a person from that. Also, when you're learning about someone, don't make accusations or assumptions based off of something that's said. There's times where the most random thing comes through a spirit box, and the last thing you want to do is upset a spirit by turning that into a, hey, well, you said you liked the radio and you liked listening to baseball. I bet the spirit liked gambling. I bet this spirit liked, he didn't like the music. He just liked doing this. Don't twist things around. Just be respectful of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of my favorite questions to ask are just things that I think people like to talk about. So like people like to talk about themselves. People like to talk about their family. So we've had so much success of like, tell us about your past. Tell us about your kids. Tell us about where you lived. Tell us about your interests, your music. Yeah. Where did you like to go? Like we've gotten so many good hits on a lot of those things because then follow-up questions become really easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What are your interests? Right? Oh, I like art. Oh, what kind of art did you do?
Oh, I like to paint. Like, oh, that's fantastic. And then you can very easily find like common ground.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I like to paint. I like to paint this. What did you like to paint? Or like we had a spirit one time who was like, oh, I loved baseball. And they were like, oh, we were in Chicago at the time. Like, oh, do you like the Cubs or the White Sox? Oh, I like the Cubs. Oh, have you been to Wrigley Field? Oh, I loved Wrigley Field. I used to go to here. Like it really,
it becomes more natural.
Yeah. And it kind of, and this may be a little bit an odd word, but it kind of humanizes them in a sense where it's more like you're just having a conversation with a friend instead of like trying to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
Leave your savior complex at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So we've already talked about quite a few different communication methods. What do you think are some of the most common methods and how beginners should approach them?
So I think one thing beginners should really look at is human involvement with the communication method. You know, there's a lot of different things out there that are a little more, I'd like to say reliable, and that's not putting judgment on any type of this communication. But you have things that I kind of classify as like your primary methods, such as chat boxes, spirit boxes, your Estes, things that are going to rely on a spirit putting that communication out there. And then you're going to have things like your pendulum, your Ouija boards, dowsing rods, things like that, where you can still get a lot of information, but they require human touch in order to get that information.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to move down to things that require not only human touch, but purely human interpretation. So things like tarot cards. I love tarot, but you can't lay down the same 3 cards and have 2 readers get the exact same meaning from those.
Yep.
Same thing with the Delco goggles. I had an amazing experience with those, but I had to rely on my interpretation of what I was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's things where you have to rely on tension settings, such as your mag lights and bullet lights. So I always tell beginners, look at how much outside influence you need in order to use a communication device. It's not saying that one is better than the other, but you might use your spirit box to do a deep dive into a background about someone, and then follow up with dowsing rods to see if your vessel at home wants to go outside, something a little more surface level. So I think just really focusing on what your goal is helps you find the best communication tool for yourself. And all of these have pros and cons to them.
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. I think that you make a really good point about like anything that your hands are on, you're influencing, right? Because human beings are human beings, you know, like those dowsing rods are on the loosest little screws, and like you breathe and they spin, right? Like even if like you are so stable, you breathe the wrong way, you twitch, you know, if something happens, they can move a way that the spirit didn't intend. Or, you know, tarot cards, for example, you know, even if there's no spirit present, you're always going to pull a card because you're the one pulling the card. And, you know, tarot can be used without a spirit present. And it's a very, you know, it's a great thing. But that's not, oh, a spirit pulled that card. Sometimes it's just, I pulled a card out of a deck and this is what it meant. You know, all of those different things, your pendulum, you know, like I'm notorious for having my hand shake a little bit. And I have to be super careful about that. So I really moved away from that. I used to use it a lot more, but I really moved away from that. So, you know, I think that, and also you have to be aware, like your own energy is very powerful and your own energy can make those things move too. So, you know, you're kind of competing between managing your own energy and also, is it a spirit's energy? And so when you're looking at things, the least amount of human involvement, the better, in my opinion, for validity purposes, especially getting the story. You know, I think those lesser things are great for quick communication where it's at, I call it like not high stakes, right? It's not high stakes if we're, you know, you're asking a little kid spirit, oh, do you want to read this book tonight or this book tonight? There's no stake in the game. Okay, maybe they got a book that they didn't want to read, but, you know, that's not talking about their loved ones and their relatives, right? Like that's not, you know, for the rest of their existence, you're going to be thinking that they had a sister when they didn't. I think the stakes are really important when you're looking at, okay, you know, is this a question for something like a primary communication tool or something that I can just get quick? So,
and nowadays everything is so affordable, or there are methods like you can use a pencil, a needle, and some like thread to make a pendulum. Mm-hmm. And there's so many options that are easily available. So I think really focusing on the type of communication is so important when you can get anything in your hands within 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like a big thing for me is, you know, nowadays there's a lot of information put out there. You have the apps that are popping up more and more. You have 20 different kinds of spirit boxes out there. And just, I feel like now more than ever, it's really important to look at the validity of the method of communication.
Yeah, there's a lot that's put out there, like the apps, that's really for paranormal entertainment. And paranormal entertainment, you know, I know in the field, paranormal entertainment is seen as like the worst thing on this earth. And you know, the disrespect especially is something that I have concerns about. But at the same time, paranormal entertainment, there are a lot of people who start watching paranormal entertainment. And then that leads them into really looking at genuine paranormal investigation and all of those things. But I think, you know, if you're somebody on the investigation side, it's so important to look at, you know, what is really for entertainment and what is for evidence. Those are two very different things.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so next thing we're talking about. So starting an investigation is not necessarily challenging, let's say. You know, you can jump into it pretty easily, but ending the investigation is another huge part of protection, safety, and things like that. So what do you think is the appropriate way or the proper way to close out, let's say, a communication session?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of different methods that you are using for communication. Some of those have their own ways of closing out. So, for example, if you're using a Ouija board, you always want to make sure you're closing that out, you're saying goodbye, and that you are fully communicating that that session is done. Estes, I always like to, as long as the communication is going in a positive manner, I like to say, is there anything else you would like to talk about? Is there anything else you would like to say? We are going to wrap this up. Letting the spirit know that the communication is coming to an end is important, instead of doing a hard stop and making them feel like they were just there for your fun. Keeping that human aspect to it. Now, if communication is going negatively, I think you can end that a little more abruptly and being like,
sure,
but making it clear. Like, I don't appreciate the tone that this is continuing in. We are going to be ending this conversation, and then setting your boundaries of, like, you know, you are not to follow me. You are not to stay with me at any time. You stay here. I am leaving. This is the end. One thing that I've seen growing increasingly popular is virtual Estes method. If you are doing something in that nature, making sure that if you are the one under the headset, that if stuff starts going negatively, you know that you have the power to end that conversation. Also, if you are the one under the headset, you cannot hear things. So having a vibrating alarm system that times at 30 minutes maximum usually is your safest bet. Having something that's going to alert you of that to be able to pull yourself out. So first, ending that communication aspect. Then, after your communication is completed, wrap things up by thanking them for their time. Because in reality, you did take just, you know, time may not be known the same, but you took a good chunk of time from that person to speak with them. So thanking them for taking the time to speak with you, thanking them for allowing you to get to know them better. And then again, letting them know the conversation is over, communication is over. If it's at home with your vessels, you can set expectations for future communication. Like, hey, you know, Sunday we're gonna talk again. That's in this many days. If you're at a location and you plan on coming back, you can always say, hey, I'm not sure when, but we do plan on coming back, and I hope to speak to you again. Just letting them know. We had a local bar ask us to come in and investigate to see if there were spirits there. And this is the first time that anyone had ever talked to them since their passing. And when I asked if there was anything else they wanted to say, they said, please come back. And so I set that expectation with them of, you know, I am so glad that we had this experience, and I would love to come back. I will stay in touch with the owners, and we will see when we can set something else up. And I will ask that they communicate to you once that time frame is set. So just making things very clear about if there's going to be future involvement, or if, hey, we're done. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave. You stay here and have a great rest of your time.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I also think, you know, and this is not always possible, but sometimes it is. So in the event that it is, you know, if you're going to a location like somebody's house, or, you know, you are going to work with somebody's haunted doll and you know their spirit keeper, or, you know, when you pay to go to a location, this is not always going to be possible. But when it is, on the opposite end of ending it, preparing those spirits for you coming can be really nice too. So like when we have people here, I'll say like, okay, you know, next weekend, this person, and this person are going to be here. They're really looking forward to, you know, hanging out with you guys. If there's anybody who wants to talk to them, you're welcome to do that. Or like when we investigated Robert the doll, David Sloan like prepared him for us coming. Mm-hmm. So when we got there, instead of being like, here's some random strangers and kind of like, you know, spooking him, David was like, okay, you know, this is Taylor and Mitchell. These are the people I told you about that were going to be coming to work with you, and they're going to try some communication things with you that people haven't done before, so we're going to do something new. So he was very prepared going into it, so there wasn't as much of like, oh, like stranger danger. And I think that really helps a lot, especially when you're working with haunted dolls. And as a spirit keeper, if you're bringing people over to the house and these people expect to come in and work with your haunted dolls, you know, please tell them that there are going to be people, because again, it is their home too, not just yours. So,
and I think that brings up two other really good points. One, if someone's coming over and expecting to communicate, if you're going to a location or someone's home and they're not familiar with a communication method, making sure that you're taking time to fully explain that to the spirits as well, how the device works and how they can use it to get the best communication with you, so that they are not frustrated on their end. And then taking your spirits somewhere, prepare them as well. Like I know I had conversation with my spirits before bringing them to your home, telling them, here's how long we're going to be there. Here's approximately what that time frame is going to look like. And that helped them know, hey, I'm going to go hang out with a bunch of other spirits, but it also let them know, like, hey, at the end of this, we're going home. They refer to it as vacation now and have a countdown calendar because they understand. They literally do. It has a full picture of your guys' room in there with like a countdown with a heart on the next date. But it helps them be aware that like this is not going to be a long-term thing. This is something where we go and we see friends and then we come home and then you get to see friends again at a later time. So just being very open, because we're making plans on the back end. We're going to locations on the back end, and these spirits are along for the ride that we take them on.
Yeah. Yeah. Letting them know what's going on is so important. And it's something that I think a lot of people overlook, especially with haunted dolls, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to grab them off the shelf and we're going to roll. Like, it's so important to have them feel prepared and knowing when it's over. Because things being over, especially with kids' spirits, can be hard. You know, they don't want to leave. They had so much fun. Oh, you know, all of those things come up. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Deanna just told me the other day, she was like, too long in between. I was like, oh, too long in between what? And she's like, friends. And I'm like, oh man, you know, like we got to make it 4 months.
Yeah.
And time is different for them, right? Like 4 months to us, it's like, oh, it's in no time. But to them, like that feels like forever. And recognizing the time difference, I think, helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. So we've gotten to the end of the investigation. We're going to get into reviewing the evidence, which is sometimes the most challenging part.
Yeah.
So what's your process for reviewing evidence, and what do you think people should be looking for when reviewing?
So I will say, in hindsight, review your footage as quickly as possible. I did not have a way to review for a while, and I ended up with a baggie of SD cards. I actually messaged Taylor and I was like, I have to go through all of these.
Literally, the
terrifying.
picture, just
that
the
is so
picture
intimidating.
she sent me stressed me out. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, I was looking at it like my heart going like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But just one, make sure that you have equipment to review your footage. If you need an adapter, if you need more storage on your device, which is the issue I had originally ran into, making sure you take those things into consideration. I'm a little bit extra. I'm very type A. And I should have had one with me, but I actually have a book for each location. And so I will go through and write down the history of the location as I'm reviewing everything. I will research and pull things from historical websites, not Wikipedia, not Facebook pages, historical relevant websites. And I will note everything down because buildings, I know it sounds weird to some people, buildings move. People move those suckers. So important to know things like that, or if any major events took place on the land itself, not just within the home, reviewing that information, taking notes. I also go through the day of, or like shortly after, like the day next day, and we'll write down notes of a location of everything I remember happening, any rooms that I wanted to take note of. And so that also helps reviewing your footage, because you can go back and be like, okay, I remember I heard something when we were in this room, and you can go back and really, really watch. But don't rely solely on memory. Go back through the footage, go frame by frame, watch the entire thing. I don't care if you were like, oh, nothing happened in that room. Nothing happened that you caught with your naked eyes and your naked ears. But when you go back through, you may catch something you missed.
Oh, yeah.
So really looking through that, listening to the conversations over again to see if there was any additional underlying information. Again, back to that telephone thing. Don't assume. Really listen to the words that are said. Don't twist things. Don't add information because you want a conversation to mean something that it didn't. I think one good thing, I know you guys take notes and write down word for word what a spirit says. Don't ad-lib stuff. Don't improv responses.
No summaries.
Yes. Yeah. Just take it word for word. You know, if the spirit didn't give you everything to answer a question, they gave you what they gave you, and that's good enough. Just be careful of what you're out there reporting after you review. Make sure you are putting together solid information.
Yeah. And write down your question too.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that happens in our house more than it has at locations, but we have some tricky spirits, and they will come up with really crafty responses to your question. And if you like, and it's highly based on how you worded your question. And so your question matters just as much as what they said, especially with like things like trickster spirits, where like they're playing games, they play word games, you know. And so if you don't have that question, it could seem like the most like mundane response, but when you have the question, you're like, wait a second, the words mattered here, and they played on how I asked. So we always try to write down what the question was too. That is equally important.
And sarcasm exists with spirits. Sarcasm does exist.
Sure.
It definitely does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So last thing we're going to talk about. So obviously nobody gets it right 100% of the time. If you realize later that you've misinterpreted evidence or reached the wrong conclusion, how would you handle that?
Well, one thing I think is important for everyone to realize, it doesn't matter if this is day one or if you've been doing this for decades. Everyone is constantly learning. Like I said, technology is evolving. There's different things to isolate sounds. There's different things to zoom in on backgrounds. You know, so if you go back through something and you find that you can debunk something later on, or you missed something and it changed the entire definition of what you thought you found, there's no problem in taking accountability. That is always going to help keep your viewers knowing that they can trust you. It's always going to help support the validity of any evidence that you found and reported. And it's going to make people respect you. People respect accountability. It may hurt at the time. It may hurt your ego, but we have to put that aside and be willing to say, hey, I messed up. Hey, guys, you know what? I thought the spirit was trying to tell me this, but going back, listening to everything again, I actually think this is what was said. And again, it might hurt at the time. You may be like, dang, they're going to think I have no idea what I'm doing. But no, what you're showing is that you have no problem going back, really putting like the time and effort into reviewing your evidence and admitting that you may have made a mistake. and people respect that. And I think just saying, here's what I found, here's what's actually accurate is a great thing. And like Taylor said earlier, if you're not sure, send it to someone, send it to a friend. Hey, what do you hear? Do you see this? Do you see anything that may have caused this shadow? There's no problem in asking. With locations, they always have a Facebook page anymore, which is great. Again, technology evolving. We have Facebook pages for locations. Message them, hey, I caught this shadow. Is there anything in that room that would have like made that? They're gonna get back to you. They have no problem with that because they want you to be putting accurate information out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, you know, especially I see this become like difficult in like tight knit friend groups or with like creators where it's like, you know, people like idolize certain people and expect that every single thing they do is going to be flawless. And there are, you know, a lot of people who come pretty dang close and their interpretations are really, really great. Even those people make mistakes. You know, it's again, we're dealing with something so subjective. We're dealing with environmental factors. We're dealing with just weird stuff that happens that's just like mundane. And when you're dealing with that stuff, you know, like everybody is going to make a wrong call. And it's not about not making a wrong call. It's about how you handle that wrong call you made. You know, hey, like I thought the spirit was being a little bit like abrasive toward me, but going back and reviewing that footage, like it seemed like maybe this was a spirit that had a lot of trauma. And, you know, we were setting that trauma off because we had this type of person in our group and they have sensitivity to that. And, you know, maybe it didn't have anything to do with us. And it was really, they were just really upset. You know, it's totally okay to even like come back and make a second video. Okay, hey, you know, I've reviewed this at length. A couple of people have commented on it. I thought about it. And, you know, this is kind of where I'm leaning now. There's no shame in that. There's absolutely no shame in being honest. There is shame in being dishonest and telling stories and running with stuff, you know? So, yeah. Yeah.
And it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I just have no idea.
Yeah, everyone thinks they have to have an answer, and you don't. You don't have to have an answer.
No, and especially at locations, like you're dealing with a location with, you know, 100 years of history, and you're there for 6 hours. You know, you're not going to solve every mystery of that place. And, you know, just because there's a legend tied to that location, like it's okay to say like, hey, you know, I went because I was really interested in this particular legend, but like I didn't experience that. You know, you don't need to craft your narrative around what like the location's history or legends are to make it seem like you had that experience. If you didn't experience it, that doesn't mean you had a bad experience. You just had a different experience. And at a lot of these locations, you know, there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of spirits, and you encountered somebody different than the person who captured that, and that's okay. Like, you know, tell the spirit story that you experienced, not the spirit story that everybody on the internet wants to hear. So
okay, that's all I got.
All right, that's all you got. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was super awesome. I always appreciate an ethics conversation. I think you do such a great job with your spirits and at locations. I will be dropping her links down there. Please check out her stuff on multiple platforms. We'll put all the links. Go find her, follow her, support her stuff. I love having people support people in this community who are really, really doing the ethical deal. And Ray is definitely doing that. So we have a spirit of the week to share with you in a second after the commercial break. When we have guests, I let the guest pick the spirit of the week, and Ray picked a doozy that really highlights the safety topic. So we're going to talk about him when we get back. So don't leave, have your dance break, and we will see you soon.
Change the past, achieving our foot on the gas, never wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I could change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on.
Hello and welcome back from our commercial break. We have our spirit of the week.
It's Haro.
It is the bunny himself.
It's Haro.
It is Haro.
Yeah.
That's this guy.
It's Haro.
Taylor, why don't you tell us a little bit about this little menace, Haro?
Okay, Haro. Where do I even start? So Haro is one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting spirit that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. Haro is something. He's a non-human spirit who is extremely trippy. When you ask him what he is, he says he's just a puka and laughs. A puka is like a Celtic trickster spirit. Based on how he responds to that question, I'm not convinced that he is a puka spirit. I think there is a possibility, just based on like the traits, like it is a shape-shifting entity. Haro is shape-shifting. He's just like extra trippy for a puka spirit, but I guess anything is possible. But that's what he says. But it's kind of a joke. When we first got Haro, I was a little bit intimidated. I took him out of the box, and right when I took him out of the box was when I learned that weird stuff happens to people who touch this bunny.
Yep.
I did not know that was going to be a thing. So I take him out of the box and I'm seeing stars. Like I put my hands on him and I'm like literally seeing stars, cold sweating. I feel like I'm going to faint. I don't know what's happening. I'm super disoriented. I don't know where I am. I had to lay down. I was like lights out. I felt like I was melting. It was a lot. And in that moment I was like, what have I gotten myself into? I genuinely was concerned.
The good stuff.
I was like, what have I gotten myself into? And so I started to get to know Haro. He was a little bit dodgy at first when we first worked with him, just really trippy, very strange, not incredibly friendly. But then as we got to know Haro better, we saw a side of his personality that I genuinely never expected. Haro is so silly. He's actually extremely caring. He always tells me he loves me and says that I'm beautiful, and he has done some things at locations that are very protective in nature, and he's just a quirky, and he has a broken neck. He's just a quirky guy. And I love him for that. He is extremely psychic. Some of his activity is really weird. One of the things that he causes are UFO-ish sightings where you'll see UFO looking things outside your window.
Which we have had.
We have had that. We have caught it on video. And
yep.
He just, everything he does is to entertain himself. But I think he is a great pick for the safety episode because Haro is a really good example of what can happen, what spirits can do if they choose to. Because Haro uses people like puppets.
Mm-hmm.
And Haro has this, I thought it was just me taking him out of the box for the first time. Well, then I learned that we would have guests over. And I'd be like, oh, check out Haro. And people would put their hands on them and on him, and they would start tripping out. We have had people cry. We have had people just blank stare, completely dissociate. We have had people go into complete manic laughing fits.
Feeling like they're melting.
They call it feeling like they're melting into a puddle of goo.
Yeah, the goo.
It just like he does really interesting things to people when they touch him. And I think a lot of people may see this as malicious, but Haro has been so clear that his intent is he thinks it's funny to see what you'll do.
Correct.
When he does this. So, you know, spirits can influence us physically. And most people that this happens to, we record everybody who touches him now so they can see it after, because we also learn a lot of people don't remember everything that they experienced either.
Also true.
So I am going to, before we get into his responses, just give you an example of what this looks like. Ray got harrowed, which is why we call it getting harrowed, which is why she picked him for this episode. So I'm going to show you a clip of Ray and Danny and Jenny getting harrowed and show you a little bit of how a spirit can influence you physically if they so choose. So let's roll that.
Enjoy that.
Yeah, I'm very melty. he's a trippy bunny. Flicks his tail. What the actual hell? Are we good? This is fucking hilarious. Like I feel like I'm falling to the left. But it's like the other night, only reverse. Like the whole left side of my face and body is just like floppy gooey. It's like I can't not say that. This is so weird. It's like
You like to be on camera so much.
I can just hear laugh. But I can feel me like falling because the left half of my body is like gooey putty.
Yeah, I got jokes too, bro.
Oh, yeah, you both.
Like, I can see the face inside these like weird eyes.
What? Oh my god. Oh my god, I love him.
That was what a little bit of what being harrowed looks like.
Like one of many examples.
Yes, that we have so many more examples of this happening to other people.
Yes, all the time.
And it can happen from anywhere from 3 minutes to, I think the longest was 8 minutes. And there are people who cannot get themselves out of these episodes until I physically remove him from their hands. The other thing that's really interesting is they never want to let go, even if they're like suffering. Like we had Eric like completely zoning out. He was like gone and we're like touching him. He's like not responding. And we're like, okay, we got to take Haro. And he's like, no. And then after this happens, everybody falls like obsessively in love with him. And they're like,
which I'm sure he just loves.
And they're like, he's my best friend. I love him so much. They're bringing him gifts. They want to carry him around. Morgan carries him around anytime we go on trips together. So he has an interesting way. But I do think it's a really good example of how much influence a spirit can have over a person. We are very fortunate that this particular spirit has an affinity for just making himself laugh at your expense. But imagine a spirit with that much influence that is unsafe. What they could do. Fortunately, again, it's just our broken neck bunny having a good time. But that is Haro. We love him. He is one of the spirits that I have gotten the closest with. I could talk to Haro all day. He loves to banter. He's very silly and he just always makes us laugh. So you guys had a record number of questions this time for Haro and he very much enjoyed them. So let's get into those, Mitchell.
Of course. So reminder of how this works. We do a spirit box session. In this case, we did it with Haro. I ask your questions word for word that you guys submit. I then write down his answers word for word. So if you want to go see that, Taylor, where can they see that?
Those videos are in our TikTok subscription where we share our Estes Method sessions. Haro sessions are always really entertaining to watch because he talks in this cartoony little silly voice, and it's very, very interesting to experience.
Yes.
So that will be posted for you guys.
If you want to see details, go check that out. But okay, so when we started this, I said, all right, Haro, are you ready? And he said, geez, what a crowd. Hurry up. And we just had a conversation with him before this where, like, if we go too long, it's going to get a bit of a problem for Taylor. So he was like, hurry up, we got to go. Awesome. So first couple questions are from Ray, who was our guest today. Ray's first question was, how do you decide between making people laugh or feel like they are goo/paralyzed? And Haro said, it's whatever I'm in the mood to see.
You are his entertainment.
So there you go. Next question from Ray is, what is it that you like about bees? Little bit of background. Haro loves bees. He collects dead bees. He wants to see more bees. He loves the bees.
Yeah.
And Ray went against, asked him why. And Haro said, they do booty dance.
We didn't know what this was, but we Googled it, and apparently bees shake their bums at each other to communicate.
It is their form of communication. It is well documented.
We learned this from Haro, so
yes,
it does not surprise me that that's why he likes them either.
I honestly respect it.
Yeah, I do respect that.
Last question from Ray. What is your favorite thing about meeting friends of Taylor and Mitch? And Haro said, they never can stay calm. I love them. Welcome back.
He loves meeting new people.
Loves people. So social.
Like, people are like suffering, and he's like, I love you.
Yeah, he loves it. The more people he can see, the better.
Yes.
Next question is from Morgan. Morgan has a very strong attachment to Haro.
Yeah, Morgan and Haro are besties.
And Morgan said, do you miss me as much as I miss you? Frowny face. And Haro said, yes, I do, Morgan. So there you go, Morgan. Haro loves you. Next couple questions are from Lord Oracle. This first question from them is, since you are a puka spirit, is there more of you out there, or are you currently the only one? And Haro said, one Haro, many chopped liver.
What?
He's a 1 of 1. So there you go.
According to folklore, there are many puka spirits out there, but
only one Haro.
But only one Haro.
Don't forget it.
Or your chopped liver.
Next question from Lord Oracle. Are the tales about pukas enticing humans to ride on their backs and giving them a wild but terrifying journey true? And Haro said, this sounds crazy. No idea. So he doesn't know. Not his thing, clearly. Next
Haro's
question.
Just vibing. He don't care about the folklore.
No, he don't care about the folklore. Next question from Lord Oracle. Since you are a shape-shifting spirit, what type of form do you like to take when you aren't residing in your vessel? And Haro said, a crazy bunny. Tails up.
That's true. Everybody has visions of bunnies doing very strange things when they touch him. It's just like,
that's Haro.
Bunnies doing bunny stuff.
There you go. Clearly, I mean, look at him.
Yep.
There you go. Next question from Lord Oracle. Since you are from the Celtic realm, have you interacted with any other Celtic spirits in your previous travels? And which were you most and least favorite you have met? And Haro said, yes, I have. Quite not fond of Kelpies. Eyes are green. Met them more than once about that. That's just a bully's game.
Okay.
So there you go.
I don't know why them having green eyes is so offensive.
I don't know, but for some reason, Haro doesn't like it.
Yeah.
Next question from Lord Oracle. Are there places that are sacred to puka spirits, such as yourself, that are off limits to humans and should never go near? If so, how would you recognize them? And Haro said, it's a pattern to not step on people's houses. I don't step on your house. At least take off your shoes. All hail Tickle Feet.
So if you're going to disrespect his home, he's
take your shoes off.
So he can tickle your feet.
Presumably, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Hey, you never know.
All right.
Next question from Lord Oracle. People have different reactions when holding you for the first time.
They sure do.
From uncontrollable laughter and into full-out tears, which we just saw. Is this your way of saying hi and causing some harmless mischief? And Haro said, they're too weak. I like seeing. It's funny. There you go. Too weak.
Too weak.
Got to strengthen up.
It's brutal.
Next question from Lord Oracle. Yourself are a presumably powerful fairy spirit with different kinds of powers, but has anything in the past frightened you to the point of being filled with absolute fear? If so, what was that situation? And Haro said, I'm not scared. So there you go. Not scared.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either. Last question from Lord Oracle. Final question for me. Is there stories you wish to tell from your past that aren't in folklore online? They can either be funny or sad or downright bizarre. And with that, have a pint of Guinness on me, Haro. And Haro said, it is displayed very wrong on purpose. They won't know weaknesses. Humans stuck.
Oh.
On purpose. There you go.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, he doesn't want you to know his weaknesses. Don't exist.
I'm not aware of any.
And especially not scared.
Actually, the only weakness I do know of, and it's not a weakness, it's something that will make him break character, though, that I found, fortunately, very early on.
Beach hat?
Is if he does have a beach hat.
He does have a
that's
beach
not
hat.
his weakness. But if he is doing his thing to somebody and they're touching him and they're having a hard time and I need to like pull him out of his thing, I will be like, hey, Haro, do you have a broken neck? Because his vessel like has a broken neck. And he will totally like break character and get super goofy and thinks it's so funny. And that is like the only way I can deter him is talking about the broken neck. So
what a guy.
That's our little joke.
What a guy. Next question is from Miranda. How often do you travel outside of your vessel? If so, how far do you go or where? And Haro said, I go far to the fence. Once in a while, the mailbox. Which, to give you some perspective, is not that far.
No.
We do not have a very big yard.
No.
Our mailbox is at the end of our driveway. It's not far. So he doesn't go too far. He stays within the limits of the home, I guess.
He is always here. He definitely is always here, unless he's on vacation with us.
Yes, which we'll get into. Last question from Miranda. Which spirits do you like to hang out with the most in the house? And Haro said, Ray. Not typical. He is very different.
That's true. That's
true.
Totally true.
It is true. I think he very much likes spirits that are just different. Like he likes weird people and weird things. He likes to do weird things.
Guess that's why he likes me.
Could be.
I am weird people.
Could be. Could be. Next question is from Bambi. Hello, Haro. It was a pleasure to meet you back when you spent the weekend at an investigation with us. He did interrupt me in the middle of this question and say, true, which I'm assuming means that it is true that you had a pleasure meeting him, which would be my guess. And then the last question from Bambi was, do you enjoy going on vacations? And Haro said, great. Why should I not vacation?
He loves vacation.
He does love a good vacation.
Yes.
And he loves his little like dress up things. And
for Fairy Day, all of our fae got like fancy crystal wands for Fairy Day. You know, for Christmas, they all got like these nice jars of like flowers. For Christmas, Haro wanted
purple wing.
Some purple wing. So he has little purple wings he can wear. And sunglasses. So he got those.
Looks kind of sick in the sunglasses.
For Fairy Day, he got a lawn chair, another pair of sunglasses, and a beach hat for when he goes on vacation. But the intention was to bring the beach chair with us. Well, no. Now he has to sit on the beach chair on his shelf.
He loves it.
So he's got this little beach set now. I don't know.
I love it.
Yes.
What a guy. And the other spirits like fight to hang out with him. Like they love him.
Oh my God. We had a whole war in our house when Grima got here because Grima wanted to be on a shelf next to Haro, but Luna wouldn't give up her spot. And then it was like this whole.
We had to come to a compromise.
And then I had to move Kai and Zevile, and they didn't want to move. So I had Kai, Zevile, Nevitt, Grima, Haro, and Luna all in a duel.
There you go.
And trying to navigate that is one of the scariest things I think I've ever had to do.
There you go. Next question is from Bambi. I have seen you protect Taylor during an investigation. Do you like telling other not so friendly spirits they are not welcome? And Haro said, I must fight them and run away. I'll save my love.
Thank you, Haro. That's
Very
very
kind.
nice.
Very nice.
That is very nice.
Last question from Bambi. How do you choose who to mess with when people are around and who to leave alone? And Haro said, I know if they'll be a funny one. If not, this is not fun.
You have no use to him if you won't be funny.
Yeah, that's why he never does it to me. He's like, you're not funny. Like, thanks. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. So great.
He made me feel like I was having a medical episode. I thought I was like, am I gonna have to be hospitalized?
Yeah, possibly. And next question is from Spider. Hi, Haro. I'm Spider. You are the first spirit I ever saw a video about from Tej. Firstly, one of my spirits, who we call Sunday Bunny, wants to know if you have a favorite pudding flavor. And Haro said, vanilla.
All right.
All right. Next question from Spider. We heard people were chasing you at Mod Madness. Are you okay? And Haro said, never caught up. Close. No winning. They had their fun. So presumably he is very fast.
Presumably.
Next question from Spider. Who do you like to spend the most time with? Do you play any games with anyone? And Haro said, flashlight games. I play with Taylor and her with me.
We do play games.
Very nice.
That's true. We do.
Next question is from Carly, aka Vix. Hi, Haro. Since you loved your trip going to Florida, if you could get any gift from there, what would it be? And Haro said, I want to get Florida Fork.
This is an example of the weird things he asked
I
for.
then asked, what is a Florida fork? And Haro said, say that word Florida everywhere. So then I asked a follow-up question. I said, so you want a fork that says Florida on it all over it? And Haro said, yes.
So random.
So I guess we're going to have to find him a fork that says Florida on it
Yep.
all over.
Yep.
I don't know, man.
I loved Florida. We had this whole joke. Haro goes to Florida. He was like wrapped in a towel, laying in the hammock outside.
He was great. He was lounging. He was having the time of his life. Last question is once again from Carly, aka Vix. What is your go-to feeling to give someone and why? Thank you. Live, laugh, Haro. Put on a t-shirt.
Honestly, we should.
And Haro said, slimy. Yes, slime, which we heard.
Well, we've always called it goo, but now that we know that he calls it slime.
I think they're interchangeable.
Yeah.
Slime, goo, very similar kind of
slime. Okay.
Similar things.
All right.
I said, Haro, is there anything else? He said, have a nice night. Bye. So there you go.
That's Haro. And yeah, I think all the questions that came in for him illustrate very well how much of an impression he makes on people that he meets.
Yes,
because,
great questions.
You know, everybody who gets Haro'd, like people are very scared to get Haro'd because they've seen other people's reactions and they get very nervous about having it happen to them. But then after,
everyone
they're
has
like, I love
everyone
him.
has a positive experience.
Yeah, it's like you have to suffer a little bit, but then once you're on the other side of it, you're like, that was the best experience of my life.
You feel kind of trippy, but I mean in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Haro. I appreciate his quirkiness so much, and I feel very lucky to have the relationship with such a unique spirit that I do. He's a great pal.
He is something.
He's definitely a great pal, and he definitely knows, when he's needed. If you need a laugh, Haro's gonna show up. You had a bad day, Haro's gonna show up and just act a fool to make you smile, and I appreciate that so much about him. It's like I know I'm sharing my space with like a very, very powerful entity, but and I'm like acutely aware of like he could totally like rock my shit.
But he doesn't.
And he's so he's just so silly. I don't know.
It's
he's
for
so
fun.
silly.
It's so positive.
Yeah, it
and
really is.
It's always been positive.
It
Like
has
it's
been.
never been with negative connotations. He's just a very he shows his affection in very strange ways.
Yeah, and I'm really glad, I think he is a really good example of what we talked about in this episode with not making assumptions of a spirit's like intentions or, making something out of a situation that didn't happen. Because rather than assuming, okay, he's making people trip out because he's trying to torment them and scare them and, all of those things, we just asked him, like, why are you doing this? And he's like, it's funny.
He's like, it's funny.
And
like, fair enough.
And so knowing his intention, it's like, it that very easily could have been spun into, oh, he's trying to scare me. But that's not it. It's mischief at its finest.
He's that guy.
So we want to thank Ray so much for coming on and being a guest. Please support her stuff. Those links will be down below for you. We really appreciate you being here and supporting this podcast as always. All of your comments and kind words and episode requests, we read all of them. They mean so much. Thank you guys for always submitting questions for our spirits. They really look forward to answering your questions as well, and they get so excited to be Spirit of the Week and get picked for it. So thank you for doing that. And I think that's it.
That's it.
So until next time, we will see you later.